Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 311, and today we're doing battle in the Daily Rumble standard best of one. And so, back to the Daily Rumbles in this video, and we're playing a very similar lineup to what we did last time. If you don't want to hear me babble about the strategy of the decks, we're going to be playing Fiora Vayne, we're going to be playing Brown Elites, and we're going to be playing the Fearsome's deck, the Callista Nocturne. And so what I like to do in these daily rumbles, the strategy I've really kind of looked towards is I like to play one deck that's just good against generally everything. This is something we feel like doesn't have terrible matchups, doesn't have good matchups. If you were playing in seasonals, last season, this would have been a place where you would see Gangplank Sejuani, right? This was a deck to where it felt pretty good to take against any best of three lineup. You knew that you weren't going to have like a 70-30 matchup against anything, but on the flip side, nothing was really a 30-70 against you. And so if you were just kind of 50-50s matchup-wise across the board, then you shouldn't get just dumpstered on by any specific lineup, and it also gives you that place to potentially outplay your opponents a little bit. And so Brown Elites is what we're looking to get to out of that. But then the way I like to look at these best of one matchups, or I like to pick on people that bring three of the same archetype. And so if you bring three control decks, for instance, then we hope to be ready with the Nocturne deck. If the opponent bans out the Nocturne deck, then okay, we're fine to play Elites, right? We're fine to play that against anything. But if they make a wrong ban along the way, then we do get to play our really good deck against a bunch of bad matchups for our opponent. Same kind of deal with the idea with Fiora Vayne, in that if our opponent are playing a bunch of just really unit-heavy, non-interactive decks, and so if they're playing a bunch of stuff like Elites, things that have a Leona in it, if they're playing decks like Nocturne Callista, we have just the great and fantastic opportunities to shut them down with either a Fiora or with a Quinn Bird attached with a Darkened Harp. That since they have no removals, no ways to stop a very intimidating one health unit, you tend to be able to shut them down pretty quickly. And so, to pull up the deck lists for just a moment, first and foremost, we have Fiora Vayne. I have tweaked this just a touch more. We have gone from 3 formulas to 2 and now down to 1. Added in another combat cook so that we would have additional ways to generate those equipments along the way. And so if you're not familiar with our Fiora Vayne deck, the idea we have with it are just the quick attack challengers that we mentioned before, but on a much broader level, we're able to play a lot of 4 health units. The real kind of sticking point of the stat area in the history of Runeterra is having 3/3s, and we have a lot of ways just to have bigger units than 3/3s and try and virtual card advantage our opponents out of the game. And so we have the Fioras, the blocking Badger Bears, the combat cooks, and the blood cursed harpies to have units that are just hopefully a little bit bigger than what our opponent is bringing to the table. And if you're not familiar with virtual card advantage, that's the idea that our opponent has 2 3/3s on the board. We have 1 4/4. Our opponent cannot profitably attack into us, right? We can block one of their 3/3s with our 4/4. Their unit dies. Our unit survives. They get to deal 3 damage, yes, but they're probably not going to attack. And so since our 1 card is now turning off 2 of our opponent's cards, we call that virtual card advantage. Up next, we have the Brown Elites deck. Fairly straightforward with the Elites, but we do play Rite of Negation. I think the big kind of death knell to Elites in the current format is the opponent just trying to go onto you with a big spell. And so whether or not that is Buried in the Ice or Feel the Rush or an opposing champion's Strength, whatever, there's just tons of big oops I win big spells in the format, and the Rite of Negation is able to stop those. And so we play Rite of Negation over things like Deny, because if you find yourself up against something like Annie Ezreal, they try to make these big turns to where they chain off 3 or 4 spells in the middle of combat, and being able to wipe all of that out with the Rite of Negations is quite powerful. Last but not least, we have Callista Nocturne. If memory serves, this is the exact same Callista Nocturne that we took to the last seasonals, and I'm quite happy with this list and how it plays out. So we're playing the Noxus version, or the air quotes Noxus version, if you will, to where we have these 2 copies of Legionary Charge, but everything else in here is a Shadow Isles card. And this is the kind of deck we look to where, again, if our opponent is playing like Rise and Heimerdinger Jace and Annie Ezreal or something, we're really hoping they just don't ban out Nocturne Callista. And so if we have to take Elites into those decks, not upset about it, but ideally we get to spike the Nocturne Callista into an unprepared opponent. And so, those are the decks. The pay-to-win price has been paid. Everything is pretty premium looking out here. We are ready to dive in. And so, let's hit up the battles. No Stony Suppressor Scouts this week. That's what I did in the last one. Was I thought that we could get like more of a bait, bringing out the Stony Suppressor Scouts with the idea that opponent looks at it and just says, "Ah, it's a Scouts deck." You know, I can kind of see this triple Demacia stuff that you're doing. I'm just going to come out and ban elites, and then that would leave us in the space to where we could get the Stony Suppressors onto our opponents. But didn't quite have that come together. But out here, let's just ban out what looks to be his more aggressively oriented deck with the Zed, see if we can't push this into a bit of a longer game. And then I don't want to risk running our Fiora deck up against a bunch of stuns. And so I think the Fearsome should be pretty okay against the likes of Echo Zillion. He's going to try and time bomb us, but if he's not getting a big time bomb chain happening early, then we should be able to aggro them down before his deck can actually do anything. The big way that the Zillion-based decks are able to shut down aggro is just putting Zillion on the board, right? Say, oh man, you're attacking me with your 3-2 Legion rear guards. Well, guess what? Here's my 1-4 bro. We tend to be able to attack through those shenanigans. Oh boy. Let's see how awesome this Fallen Feline is. I love Fallen Feline. Nope. just a shitty card. Alright, he hasn't predicted into it yet. The game continues. So he should probably be attacking here. We're not going to block. We have a pretty good setup going into the next turn to where we have the Fearsomes and the Butler into the Arachnoid Horror and the Stygian Onlooker. Probably want to be dropping Mistwraith instead of the Arachnoid Horror, given that we have Wraithcaller Risen Mists in hand. So we'll take the -1 point of damage for this turn to get a little bit bigger the rest of the way. Oh, fucking awesome. I love Hexite Crystal. At least he can't cast it this turn, but it's so dumb. It's like, okay, I drew my 1-drop. Now, if I magically hit on one of my predicts throughout the course of the game, I automatically win. Oh, that was fun. That was a fun card, whoever designed this one. Alright, whatever. Hopefully we can at least fight through it here. We do have the Wraithcaller Soul Cleave combo. So we do have a bit of tools to take into this thing, but I would say what's realistically going to happen is we'll drop the Wraithcaller here, and then he won't Crystal us until the next combat. And so we don't really find ourselves in a positive space to find our way attacking through it. Right, so we play the Wraithcaller, then we get the Mistwraith on the board. If he plays it right now, that would be pretty sweet, but that is a 100% mistake. I don't think we would get away with this in the Masters queue. Alright, so we'll take all this damage, and so we're at this point now where something just has to go right. And so we're going to say, alright, well, opponent just isn't allowed to have a Mystic Shot here, and so we're going to just assume that our Soul Cleave is going to work. And, well, sometimes you get that juicy action, just get exactly what you need. Thermogenic Beam guarantees that our cleave works. Get a pretty strong attack in. He has to block both of our Wraithcallers. We got a little excited on that attack. Should have put that Hallowed onto our Mistwraith, but still looking strong with these units coming in. If something went, surprise wrong next turn, we do still have the Risen Mist to potentially get a blocker out of nowhere. So maybe we're okay. Maybe. Famous last words, as many say, but maybe it'll be alright. Alright, so he's bringing in another time trick. I assume that's going to flip the Echo here. This is a bit of a tough spot for the next turn, in that we kind of need these things to go right again. We can get like really close to the lethal with just 2 Fearsomes, right? But like, are we really willing to go to 3? And otherwise, do we just have to make this block here? I guess this is kind of okay. And it's just like, if he has a quicksand or if he has any of his spells or anything, we just aren't as easily able to win. But we can still try and soul cleave out of this. We do have the Mark of the Isles to potentially, if we go to soul cleave on the Mist Wraith and he Mystic Shots, then to get that little bit of protection. So that might be enough to help punch through. Then we 1 mana short of doing all of this. I think it's just a little bit too late for Callista. So we'll go ahead and soul cleave the Mist Wraith, see if he comes in with a Mystic Shot. Hopefully we can survive through now with the Mark of the Isles. Gives us 1 extra bro on this board. Then we'll try and kill with the Risen Mists. Okay. Alright, there's 2 dudes. Get dude number 3 down, and now we do get to dodge some of that stuff. A quicksand will still be enough for us to lose the game, but if he's counting on things like scrying sands to get out of this, we're now big enough to survive that. Just play another one of those thermogenic beams, bro. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see. Uh-oh. Echo's blocking. That's not good, right? That's not good. Shapestone, okay. Oof. Got through it. GG, my dude. Round 1 to bust. Ooh, got a little lucky there, I feel, but took the victory down. Go us. Let's move on to the next one. God, I hate Hexite Crystal so much. Such a shitty design card. Ooh. The intern probably did that one. If you're not familiar with the intern, that's the guy at Riot. Someone like Ruben Zhu is too smart, too well versed as being a game designer to produce something like a Hexite Crystal, and so that was probably just the intern, right? The intern, you say, we'll let you get away with one. And so this is an interesting spot. Like, I'm curious if we ever find ourselves up against tokens. That's the one I'm going to end up banning. But like, tokens is such an ideal matchup for elites to come into, and it's like, I'm okay to play an elites mirror match, but I feel like he's probably going to be coming in and banning elites on us. But as it stands, happy enough to take Fiora Quinn up against the old elites deck. We'll keep our early challengers. Gonna come in and look for Darkened Harps. Ooh. Found the harp. Need a little bit of help for it, right? The broad wings aren't the ideal harp targets. It does it in a pinch, right? If we get the free attacks on these rando 2/2s, then it's nice to have the harp to preserve the Broadwing's health, but ideally we're going to have a Fleet Feather Tracker, or we're going to have a Quinn Bird to load up with the harp. Alright, and so I'll take whatever action he gives us here. We have a couple of ways to think about this, right? Are we going to just be all in on these Broadwings, and so we're going to Broadwing into Aegis, or are we just going to try and build up to Fiora? And I think we're just going to build up to Fiora. And so if we're getting a little bit of board stall out of this stuff, I think this is okay. Maybe we should have taken down the Badger Bear. I get a little blinded by the power of Fiora with the harp, but I mean, this is just such a good spot to be in up against elites now, right? They tend to not play too many copies of single combat, and now we have this hook in with Fiora. We have the fish fight, and we have the Cataclysm as tools to get those kind of free strikes in, and it looks like we're in this space to where he was going to just challenge down the Fiora. We do have to Cataclysm now. We can't let him just take the Badger Bear into her, but I thought we were going to get into a space to where he was actually going to be attacking us, and then we would get to catch out of the combat. Not quite there. Let's see. See if he attacks or not. It's just a real shitty spot for him to be in. So the Garen comes in. We're going to fish fight him down. Now we'll be able to send Fiora into the Penitent Squires next turn. We have the catch to throw the equipment down if we need to. Probably won't need to, but opportunities are there. Boop. OTK noises, please. Says, uh-oh. I got ripped by the OTK. GG, my dude. That's what Fiora is all about. I'm glad when we get to show it off. I like when we get to show it off. GG. I think that was okay. It could have been a little sloppy in there, right? We could have protected our Broadwings against that Challenger Badger Bear and potentially taken it down, and then had maybe a safer route for Fiora, but yeah. And so as far as these decks go, I'm never really sure why we see Annie Swain with Bandle City. I thought about this kind of thing in my head, if that's just a way to get Banana Blaster on board, but I haven't actually seen what this list is. But I don't have particularly much respect for either of these decks. I feel like if he leaves Nocturne up, Nocturne will just smoke both of these, and Elites should be okay here, right? The Annie deck could have a lot of that Annie Ezreal potential where they're coming at you with Ravenous Flocks, which are going to be here, Disintegrates, which are probably going to be here, but I think that we can still set up a lot of games that they have a lot of problems with, to where they can't really handle the amount of stats that we're sending at them. Here, this is a tempting Swiftwing Flight. Maybe we'll hang on to it. It's like we just have this straight through curve, and potentially getting a little card advantage out of the Swiftwing Flight could get us in a decent space. What the fuck is this? Is that a fair assessment of what happened this game, or am I being unreasonable? The inventive chemist comes down and say, "What the fuck? There's no Gnar? What are you doing? There's no landmark generation things in here. Is it really just to do the 1 damage for Swain?" All right. Guess we're about to get a lesson. And so the thing that's kind of interesting now, like I didn't want to worry about Scrappy Bombs. Like, that wasn't really on my radar. I was just kind of thinking that we're playing against like Twisted Fate Swain or Annie Ezreal or something along those lines. It's just like super removal heavy. And this like concept of Scrappy Bomb kind of cards wasn't really on my radar, but I think it probably plays just too much into the opponent's game plan if we just drop Battlesmith and it gets hit with the Scrappy Bomb. And so I'm going to come in with the Vanguard Defender. If we start getting like 2-for-1s out of this, to where we trade for the Chemist and then he Ravenous Flocks it, I think that's pretty good. And then we can still just slow down a little bit, right, and try and get the Battlesmith on board next turn. Don't want to lose out on too many +1/+1s, but you know, it just feels like we are way far behind if we drop a Battlesmith into a removal spell. Persistence is key. All right. Good job, Vanguard Defender. I did recently just up this to 3 copies. I have been playing 2 copies of Vanguard Defender and 1 copy of Double Bird, but I felt like I was having too many games to where I didn't have anything to do until the 3rd turn, which you can most certainly still win with Elites, but I really like having something to do in the early game. I just kind of felt like it wasn't there. Now a House Spider. Okay. This is like tough. I don't want to feel like I'm getting overly clever. Like, should we really just be dropping Badger Bears at this point?
Sturdy blades, custom made.
It's tough. Like, we got the namesake of the format here ready to battle, and we're just completely ignoring that he's able to do some crazy things out here. But this isn't a matchup to where the Badger Bear is really going to be going to be doing a lot of work. That's fine. Like, his units on board are too low value to put that kind of the re-single combat back in, so we'll just let that one slide. Save it for a Swain or something, you know. We get a Swain block with a Badger Bear and cut him down to a reasonable health, and we still have a good single combat behind. Garen's good with single combat, right? He gives us those chance to flip. So I think I'm pretty okay with playing Garen on this turn. I mean, of course, we have to see what opponent does, but if we get to that +1/+1 on the Swiftwing Flight so it heals for the next turn and goes into the next turn without any damage on it, then we look to either bring in the Vanguard or the double Badger Bear. Lots of things we could do there. The fuck is this? Huh. So he's not playing Gnar, but I guess he could still be playing some of the transform units. Alright, well, I'm gonna let him dazzle me here. I'm gonna get bamboozled. Okay, it's a thing. That's acceptable. We can still take this guy down next turn at the 6/5. We now can give the Silverwing Flight +1/+1 with Garen. But that was... I think that made a bit of sense. It should have been a transform unit, just not sure which one it was going to be. We'll take the single combat now. Kind of sucks with the Garen in hand. I would like to get the extra strike with him so that he can try and flip on the next opposing turn, but I think we need to get that big boy off of the board. We don't have any way to take it down if our units are still small. So what are we doing here? Are we going to double Badger Bear, or are we going to Ram Hound and Garen? I think we want to just get the Garen on board. The downside is the Ram Hound is a little unsafe in the sense that we have all these 1 health units if he's gonna bring in Pokey Sticks or whatever. Yeah.
My heart and sword for Demacia.
Alright, well, my heart and my sword for Demacia. Let's get into battle. Alright, start swinging those life totals in our favor, right? Nox and Fervor, sure. RIP Garen, sad day for you, but... I mean, it feels like we're in a pretty good space, right? We're the only one with units on the board. We've got 4 cards in hand to his 2. One of our cards is a removal spell. One of our cards draws the other copy of Jarvan. And so, I mean, I feel like we're in a fairly healthy space here. Get him, Daddy Jarvan. You say, I'm ready to block. Alright, so we're definitely safe for the round. That's good. Conchologist is kind of meh, right? If he's able to pick up a card to give him a barrier against Jarvan next turn, that's kind of meh. But how do we think about this, though? If we don't hook the Conchologist... then I'm trying to think of a way to get the Jarvan to flip, right? If we have 1 survive, then Jarvan will flip. Oh. Nah. I'm not real hype about that. Minimorph's okay. Still churning on through. We got this nice concerted strike to potentially take Swain down with. I think it's okay. Oh man, it's about to be Badger time. Say, I'm ready. I'm ready for these to come on board. So where are we at? We attack with everything now. I think we can just get another Badger Bear, right? If everything goes completely wrong this turn, right? He gets to attack with Swain. Swain gets to do his thing and deal some damage to our stuff. Like, say he attacks with Swain, we block, and then he plays a... Wallop. We still have, like, 4 of our units survive the 3 damage AoE. So I think it's okay to be greedy with the Badger Bears. Now we get this really cool looking board, right? That's the important thing for any of these combats, getting the board looking cool. All right. Fucked up the video, I think. There we go. That's fixed. It's been marked a W. GG. All right, next battle. It's exciting. This is video 311. If you're not familiar with the band 311, they're definitely one of my favorites. A big recommend. I've seen them in person multiple times, and so got to give Nick Hexum and friends a nice little props before before the video is over for number 311. You get to celebrate 311 Day here in about a week as well. That's kind of cool. But the remaining decks here, I'm not certain what this dumb thing is over here to the left, this Bandle City thing. It's got to just be a Spirits Unleashed deck, right? Let's just ban out Annie Ezreal. That's surprising to me to see Elites get banned, since Elites tends to be a bad matchup up against the Lucian Evelyn deck. But Lucian Evelyn is what we're pretty excited to be taking Fiora up against. And so hopefully we can have some good success here. Have the bird plus the harp, not a bad start. Look for some other stuff just a little bit cheaper. Now he does have answers to a bird with harp on it, right? He has things like Hate Spike to potentially take it down, and so it's by no means a guaranteed success, but it's still pretty strong here. Almost skipped over our attack as well. I haven't done that for at least a week, and so we're due. We're due for such a problem to arise. All right, the nice draw with the Castaway gives us a little opportunity to get some of these additional cards going. So if we want to say Broadwing here, Castaway next turn, then we can catch a harp down if we want. Is that how we want to go? The other option here is just to say 2 bank. I think I'm just going to go for the bank. If he's hate spiking this stuff that he already has, I think we feel pretty good about that. And we already have 1 quick attack. I'm not really opposed to picking up the Fix 'em Up. That's typically our number 1 equipment to come into. But the combat reel is there to help us generate the mana to start playing these other equipment for free. This feels like we're about to get hate spiked, right? So I don't get really excited about these harps. Oh, all right, we're safe. We'll take the Durandi Sculptor down. This is he's got some potential to get a... Ooh, he just blocks the Castaway. Interesting. He's got some potential for, say, like Evelyn next turn, which is not ideal. So we could have thought to take down the Enraged Husk to limit this ability from landing, but I think we're about to get into the space to where we can just attack around all this stuff, right? So if he plays Evelyn, then we can potentially... If he plays Evelyn, then we can potentially just say, like, hook her out of combat. But not bad here. The way I wanted to get the Broadwing down, but the problem with the Broadwing is if we play the Broadwing, we can't get both Vayne and the Badger Bear on board next turn. And so I wanted to have the option to play 5 mana of units next turn. We're still looking pretty decent here. Castaway was a fantastic draw, so now we can add in the Broadwing, give it Challenger, then look to drop a Fix 'em onto either Vayne or whoever it looks, most appropriate on. But I start to see things like at this point and say like, all right, well, we can just Broadwing down his Husk and feel pretty good about it. Take up the Pot of Pain here. The overwhelms just aren't spectacular. Like it can be okay in the sense that it's good against a in the sense that it's good on the big cursed harpy. But I think I'm looking to just pick up the health here if we're gonna have our units running around. All right, Steam wins a combat. Good job, Steam. You gotta let the opposing units know that they're doing all right on occasion. So we'll say good job, Steam. You won that combat real good.
No room for you, Dom. So sorry.
So unfortunately, no scout units on this board. Nothing we can do about that. Drop in the Badger Bear. Why did... Oh, because on the strongest enemy. Okay. I was like, why didn't the Steam land on the Broadwing? And that makes a lot of sense. Let's see. I kind of want to get a tumble. We're running out of ways to spend our mana. So I think we can just start slamming them in. We have 2 Darkened Harps in hand, so... we are getting to the point where we can put Striatus on the board. That's probably what we'll be doing 2 turns from now, is we're going to look to have Striatu plus a tumble. But I think here we can just play the one we already have. Maybe we should have put up the Fix 'em Up, just in case we ran into that event where we want to put 2 Striatus on the board. Then we have the mana to do it. All right, well, he didn't really do anything. And Evelyn, sure. Alright, a bunch of stuff's about to happen. We're going to watch some movies for a little bit. But we do have Condemn in hand, and so we have the decision if we want to Condemn, right? We can... Yeah, we can just Condemn right now. I was going to say, what if we would kind of wait until we get into combat to see if we want to Condemn? But... I mean, I guess if it comes down to it, we can both Condemn and Catch. We just can't do Striatu Tumble next turn. That's interesting. Or what if we just take this attack? Oh, where we Broadwing off the Husk, we attack with our Badger Bear because his blocks all suck. And then we can take the Big Bank into next round. I think we just need time here, right? His board sucks a lot. Yeah, looks good to me. Looks good to me as well.
Remember the fallen.
All right, you draw your 1 card with the Vanguard Redeemer. I'm gonna draw my 2 cards with the with the Striatu. Look out, friend! It's about to come through.
Our ancestors are watching.
Nothing's changed, right? He does give Evelyn Challenger, so she'd be able to take down Vayne. Vayne is the source of our Condemn, and so if we drop the Condemn, we can't... Or if we lose Vayne to combat, then we can't play the Condemn. I think this is okay.
Harder. Okay.
R.I.P. Vayne. You fought hard. You fought valiantly. I don't want you to feel like your day was not useful. Alright, dude, enjoy. This is what card advantage is all about. This is what it's about.
Don't waste my time.
So we get to play Striatu for 6 next turn, right? That sounds cool to me.
Scream
Impress me. That's all Evelyn wants to see. And then we might do a catch Darken Harp in the middle of combat or something here if we need to. We have the fish fight behind if we want to do something like that. Lots of cool options here. This could be a champion strength. Do we lose a champion strength? Awesome. Well, we can at least kill off a bunch of his shit, right? We got one of these. We hook Evelyn out of combat. He has to block at least one Striatu and all of his units die to it. Okay. And we also get to draw 4 cards, which is never not bad, right? Never not bad. Oh, he brings in 2 blocks. Okay. I'm on board with that. You get a big old Durandi sculpture. Alright. Well, I'm ready to block. Your attacks are dog shit, so do your best, I guess. The Darken Saga domination's happening. Ooh. Can we ace this? I mean, we don't even really need to right here. We'll Striatu in front of his big unit. We can put an equipment onto Striatu and then just fish fight it away. Where are we at? Darken Aegis, sure. I don't think we want to catch it. I guess we could have just played the combat cook and done this, but we're kind of at the kind of at the getting sloppy point of the game. This one is most certainly done.
One last kiss.
Knight 15's fighting hard though. It says I can't fall to bust. The embarrassment is too much. The embarrassment is too much. Man, we haven't picked up a scout unit this game. You get the scout off this tumble, you get the attack token back. Draw a couple more cards though. Maybe that'll have a scout unit in it. Just double free Broadwings. I got you. I feel you. Alright, well, let's get the squad on board. Combat Cook, absolutely. Combat Reel, why not? We definitely need the mana now when we're drawing 1,000,000 cards a turn. Make sure we're not going to deck ourselves, right? We got 18 left. Nothing to worry about there. Here it comes. Drop a little laser kitty out there. Let him know the rumbles are about to hit. Purifying Bolt. Right to the nug, vampire bro. GG. Marking that one a W for Bust. You must not have known he's playing against #1 player in the world, FTP Bust, according to ftpbust.com. Whew. Feels good. Feels good, man. Knowing you're the best according to your own website. Whew. You get a website, you can say whatever the fuck you want. You just credit yourself. So, all right. So interesting set here. The most powerful decks coming at us are going to be the Jace Lux. Jace Lux is the deck I have in mind whenever I'm just going to be like, we gotta ban something out that's probably just the arguable best deck in the format. So I think that can go. The space we start to run into once we ban out Jace Lux are the 2 Shurima decks are kind of different, right? And so we don't really get to pick and choose the proper way to go into these, but I'm okay with just going with elites here. I worry a little bit about taking a deck like Fiora up against Varus. It's like okay-ish against Talia Ziggs, but the Varus deck is the one that really brings me some worry. Alright, though. Very elite start. Just need a unit booster and we're off to the races. Found it. Let's just go ahead and wait a turn on that, right? He shouldn't be able to interact with our Battlesmith, right? We're on the even attack tokens here, so if he drops a Ruin Runner, it's not going to be enough. Fuck. I guess that's a way to interact with it. But I think we still want to wait and just give ourselves the opportunity to drop all these elites with the stat bonuses. Ooh, Vanguard Bannerman turning up at the right time. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. God, how sick would this be if he didn't have the drop the bomb? Laser Kitty coming in. Now a champion strength for our turn 6. Beautiful. Alright, squad coming through. Now, we'll see if we manage to win this game. I don't want to call it a victory before all the cards are dealt. But whenever you see people bitching on Twitter about the strength of elites and why elites is too good, it tends to be because of draws like this. And my kind of stance on it is if you really want to beat elites, then you can. You just have to come out and start playing stuff like Buried in Ice, and you should be pretty okay at that point. But I feel like people don't want to adapt to the new meta, and that just leaves you in a spot to where you aren't really playing optimal decks against this stuff. Oh, nice. And so now we have an option for next turn, right, before we roll in. We can either open attack with Jarvan, which seems fine. He has one good block with the Grumpy Rock Bear, or we can go for the Champion Strength. And the problem with the Champion Strength is if he has the counter spell, then we're in a pretty bad spot. So he's like definitely turned the corner if this goes wrong. But my concern is if we roll with the Jarvan play, he gets to kill 2 of our units, and then as we try and do the Champion Strength play next turn, then we're just going to be like a little bit short. We're only going to have like 2 or maybe 3 dudes because of the Ram Hound on the board, and that doesn't strike me as being super awesome. So it did resolve. That's pretty good. This isn't going to be a lethal, but we should get to clear out the majority of his board. There go the big boys. And an Absolver. Okay. I was actually going to hold these units back, so it's kind of interesting to see it go down that way. He's got to block both of our dudes here. No, I guess we wouldn't have. That would have been... Seeing the board end up like this, that would have just been too obvious. We would have been coming in and crushing the game. But I was thinking from the value perspective, I didn't want to lose our units there. Alright, though, squad. Not a bad place to be in. Got a Ram Hound ready. It's tempting to just go ahead and drop the Jarvan so we get to pick up the Cataclysm for next turn, but that can't be right. That can't be the way to do it.
Point the way, and I'll make the way.
Talia can hit us for that 10. That's okay. And then the Jarvan hook into Talia next turn should give us plenty of damage to finish off these 6 points. Alright, dude, taste the steel. Fight till you're ragged and then fight again. I hear you, dude. I hear you, Jarvan. All makes sense to me. Alright. Victory achieved. Victory unlocked. It's been marked a W for bust. Alright. 3 shots at those maximum trophies. We could talk about that a little bit. I'm not curious. I am curious. I'm not certain how I feel about the current setup with the trophies and the rewards. It's like we are right at the edge of just like running out of stuff to do. Like, I think we have like 2 rewards left, and it's like I feel like we're going to clear out the entire track before the second open tournament even shows up. And so, again, like, I get that this is the beta season and things are being kind of tweaked, and I get that I probably play the game a lot more than the even the average casual competitive player, and so we have a bit of space there where it's you know, we're probably in that top percentage of games played as far as these things go. But it feels like that title isn't, you know, I think it's like that's a good reward, like having those really top end kind of title things. But I don't feel like the amount of effort we put into it was high enough to warrant the upper echelon of the rewards. So I don't know. I guess we did get the 8 wins in the open, and maybe I'm being a little bit imposter syndromed on it. Like I'm likely a little bit better than I give myself credit, but just feels like I feel like the title's a really cool reward, and I think unlocking things like Grand Marshal and World of Warcraft was a big deal. It just feels like it's been kind of light for me. And I don't know. It's like I'll scroll through the Reddit each day, and there's always somebody posting, you know, congratulations me, I finally hit Masters after playing the game for since the beta or whatever. And it's like, you know, that guy deserves some props. He deserves some high fives. And I feel like if that guy unlocked that maximum reward, it might make his year. And so I don't know. I haven't unlocked my full amount of feels on the on the situation. But pretty strong start here. I didn't talk about that stuff at the beginning. I just don't like playing Soraka Tahm Kench. It's a deck where our matchups should be good. If we get to play not elites against Soraka Tahm Kench, we should just smoke it with Nocturne, and we should smoke it with Fiora. But it's just always one of those historical matchups I feel like I have like a 10% win rate against, just due to the decks I like to play. And so we're just going to leave that one out. I don't want to play against it. And so I'm happy enough to take our other decks up against tokens. Elites is fantastic against tokens. Fiora is okay-ish. Fiora has these really interesting spaces to where, you know, opponent plays Emperor's Diaz into Fiora, and now they have to worry about getting themselves OTK'd every time they make a Blade Dance just because Fiora is hanging out. And so there's an interesting spot there. So I think this is okay. This game's starting to turn out pretty good. These tough units are fantastic against the Emperor's Diaz and the Blade Dances and the like, and we are having the blocking Badger Bears ready to stop Green Glade duos. So I think we're primed and ready for a bit of success here. Hey, it's a Green Glade duo. We were just talking about you. My Badger Bear is ready to block you. Probably should have attacked with the Battlesmith here as well. It's just the Green Glade duo is such a high value unit out of the opposing deck. Just taking it off the board for the Battlesmith is probably not that bad. But those bonus stats can really add up against this deck, as they are throwing a bunch of Blade Dances at us, and we just need to get in front of the unit. And you can kind of find yourself in this spot to where the opposing board looks like a Zier and Sparring Student and 2 or 3 Emperor's Diaz's, and you really just have to care about one unit on board, and then you can crush on the attack back. So it's like the Green Glade duo, if we just get to take it off of the board, that would be the Sparring Student in that scenario, really giving them the strength. But I don't know. The attacks for 2, I don't care. Badger Bear's good here. I think we're fine. What you got for us, Tahm Kench University? Take us to school. Alright, Irelia comes in. Here's our Badger Bear. Primed and ready to trade with the Green Glade duo. And then we got to decide if we want to start playing these other cards, you know, now. Do we want to go maximum value with the likes of our battlesmiths, or do we want to hold them back just a little bit?
Hands are for forging, not fighting.
So I think the thing is like going into... Are we going to lose any units going into next turn? The thing with the Vanguard Squire now, I guess, is it does shut down Irelia. And so if he wants to attack with Irelia, it's just going to die to the Vanguard Squire. So it's probably worthwhile to get on board now. More than happy to send the Badger Bear in front of the Green Glade Duo. No biggie. It's like he might have a shaped stone here. That's okay.
From my homeland,
You just need to not die.
Demacian steel protects me.
Oh shit, he just slamming Irelia in? Oof. Bam. That was not what I expected. Alright, and Garen. A little bit awkward timing on Garen. He does the same thing as I was talking about Fiora, in the sense that if opponent is making all these forced unit attacks and you're like, oh, cool. Well, I'll get my strikes in with Garen by just blocking your sand soldiers. It's a pretty easy and interesting interaction with him, but he was never going to get to use his flip ability, and so that was kind of a bummer there. But not a bad set of games, not a bad set of battles. We got to play all of our decks, and I feel like the strategy worked, pretty reasonably well. And so again, we're looking to run these up against a couple of specific strategies. You hope to run against either non-interactive decks, and then you get to play either Fiora or Elites into them, or you hope to play against the kind of triple control strategy. You want to play Nocturne into it. They're probably going to ban your Nocturne, but you're okay to play your Elites at the end of the day. And so had a pretty good run of success with this. I'm not entirely sold on the setup of this. I'm a little more leaning towards wanting to play just kind of 2 general decks and then 1 wild card, because I liked the idea of this when we were playing Scouts, right? We were playing Stony Suppressors. It looks like we're just trying to play a triple champion strength lineup, since we're playing the 3 Demacia decks, right? We're playing the Fiora, the Elites, and then the Scouts. And so the Scouts may not necessarily look like, oh yeah, that's got triple Stony Suppressor in it. But when people see Nocturne Callista turn up, they know exactly what they're getting themselves into. And that should be a pretty easy ban, right? If you're playing some kind of Rise lineup, or if Rise is your bread and butter deck, and you see something with Fiora in it, which you can ignore, you see Elites, which you're pretty good against, and then you see Nocturne, which is one of your worst matchups on the planet, you just ban Nocturne, right? And then that forces us into playing Elites. And so, I don't know, I kind of like the idea of having 2 generals and then 1 real kind of like wild card deck, but it's challenging if that wild card is kind of obvious what you're bringing forth. And so, something I'll have to think on a little bit more. But nonetheless, good set of battles. I had fun. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. And so I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. So this is Bust, and we thank you for being here.